Hey everybody, Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. Wanted to go live tonight again. I love hanging out with y'all. So I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I'm the managing attorney of a boutique immigration law firm where we help clients all over the United States, all 50 states, and all over the world. So we help domestic and international. I come on during the weeknights to give y'all a little bit of education on U.S. immigration, but also to answer your questions. Tonight we are live on TikTok, the Facebook page, the private Facebook group, as well as the YouTube channel. And in my law firm, we help families stay together and live under one roof. So I help typically it's going to be a U.S. citizen who is looking to get a green card for their aging parent, their child. Child in our world, remember, is under 21 and unmarried. So if you are 20 and married, you can no longer ride on your parent's immigration application. People are also looking to sponsor their spouses and their fiancés for green cards. We also help folks with naturalization applications to become U.S. citizens. And on the business side of the firm, we also work with business owners and managers and HR representatives when they have identified a candidate that they want to hire who is not a U.S. citizen and who needs work authorization. So we help them with that temporary work authorization. We also help them sponsor their employees for green cards and all of the compliance work surrounding that. So I wanted to come on and see if y'all had any questions for me this evening. Y'all know I like to kind of start off with something. So tonight I wanted to talk about the removal of condition application. In part because I just had a huge client win, so I'm super riding high on that. But the removal of condition application. So if you have married a U.S. citizen and y'all have been married for less than 2 years, when that green card is approved, you are given conditional permanent residence. With conditional permanent residence means that you get a green card, but it is only valid for 2 years. So before that 2 years is up, you need to, what we call, remove the conditions. I always tell people, think of it as changing and converting your temporary permanent residence to true permanent residence. Both applications, that initial application and the application to remove conditions, essentially say that you all are still in a relationship, it's still going strong, or conversely, it's still going. May not be going so strong, but it's still going. And the Immigration Service believes that y'all got married specifically to be married versus a completely fraudulent sham marriage in order to just get a green card, right? So when that application to remove conditions is approved, then you get true permanent residence and you get a green card that is now valid for 10 years. Great, everybody's happy. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Hey, Tony from New York, good to see you. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes it doesn't get sort of immediately approved on the first pass. So sometimes you can get a request for further evidence. Sometimes you can get a notice of intent to deny. And then we have to go back to the Immigration Service and explain how you're living your life the way you're living it. My philosophy is always, I tell my clients all the time, live your life the way you want to live it. It is your life. Live it the way you want to live it. It is my job to explain how the way you live your life meets their checklist. So a common question that people always have is, but I thought we had to have joint bank accounts. Well, not everybody believes in joint bank accounts, right? Like not everybody is for the commingling of funds, okay? And that's fine. For some people, it is very cultural. And for some people, the man takes care of paying, the bank accounts, paying the bills, what have you. I had a client who they had separate bank accounts. The husband paid everything in cash, and none of their funds were commingled. So he took cash to all of the debtors. He took the cash to the electric company and paid them in cash. He took the cash to the phone company and paid them in cash. So that's because that was the culture that he was raised in. So, so it was my job to understand that, right? It was my job to ask those questions. And not in a judgment way, but in a way that helped me understand how they were living, why they didn't have bank accounts, so that we could then explain it to the Immigration Service. That case ultimately was approved, right? It's just a matter, you have to explain it to the Immigration Service. So that's one of the things I wanted to tell y'all tonight. The other thing I wanted to say is that just because the Immigration Service issues you a notice of intent to deny does not mean that your case is going to get denied. Okay, no, it means that they're super close. It means they're real close to wanting to deny your case, but it doesn't mean that your case is automatically going to get denied. They can absolutely get more information when we respond to a notice of intent to deny, and they can then approve the case. I just had one of those. The Immigration Service was set to deny. They did not like the case for some reason. We gave them even more information in response to the notice of intent to deny, and we are now simply waiting on the approval notice to come in the mail. So a notice of intent to deny is one more opportunity to tell the Immigration Service your story, to give them more documents. So keep that in mind, and if you have received a notice of intent to deny, if you've received a request for further evidence, my office can definitely help you with that response after we do a consultation and talk to you and see what's going on. But it doesn't automatically mean that they're going to deny your case. If you get a notice of intent to deny, you do have an opportunity to give them more information. So let me see what y'all got for questions. Tony from New York has asked if you can ask a question. You can certainly pop a question in the comments. As y'all know, if you have been joining on my lives, everything that we talk about in the lives is educational. I am a lawyer. I am an immigration lawyer, but I am not your specific lawyer. So I cannot and will not give you really specific information based on your facts. If you want to work with a firm, that's great. All that starts with a consultation, and you're welcome to click the link in the bio. And then we can get you rocking and rolling with a consultation. And then that's how all of my engagements begin. But otherwise here I'm being educational, kind of helping you guys understand the immigration system. Fly Girl 101, I totally love your screen name. What's a non-citizen briefing and a DHS briefing? I have no idea what you're talking about. Non-citizen briefing and a DHS briefing. I mean, a DHS briefing is when DHS gives information. It could be an internal briefing, could be an external briefing. I'm not really sure what you mean by non-citizen briefing, though. But in general, a government briefing is when a representative from a specific government agency provides information, provides an update about something. So it could be the White House briefings that I think most people are probably used to seeing and hearing in the news and whatnot. It could be a DHS briefing where maybe they are briefing another agency. Maybe they're briefing the White House. Maybe they're giving an update to Congress. Maybe they're giving an update to their stakeholders, which would be us. We are the stakeholders for DHS and USCIS. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by DHS and USCIS non-citizen briefing, but that's what I think of when someone says DHS briefing. So hopefully that's helpful for you. What else do we have? Y'all know I'm a slow scroller. I say that all the time. But I am wearing my glasses this time, so I don't have to put those on. It's been 220 days since I submitted my cases, and I only received an EAD, SSN, and everything else. It's just stuck. I don't know what kind of case you filed. Depending on what you filed, 220 days could absolutely be within the processing times, or 220 days could be radically outside of the processing times. Y'all know that you can check your processing times for the type of case you have and your individual case if you have a receipt number on the USCIS.gov website. If you think it's stuck and you think there's a problem and you want some help sort of unsticking it, if that is the case, that it is stuck, you are welcome to schedule a consultation, and we can chat about what kind of case you have, what kind of processing times you should be looking at in general. And we are happy to help with that. We check processing times for all of our clients often so that they are in the know about what's going on. I have a question about VAWA. VAWA was approved, but I still have not received an interview notice. My firm, I specifically do not handle any VAWA cases, so I can offer you zero accurate information on VAWA. But there are lots of attorneys out there who do handle VAWA, so I would honestly suggest that you pose that question to an attorney that handles VAWA cases. Let's see. My friend filed an appeal. It says non-citizen brief due. And DHS brief due. I am wondering if your friend is in deportation proceedings. That's what I'm curious about. If for the briefs, I think now what you're talking about is a briefing schedule, as laid out by the judge, I believe is what you're talking about. But you said it's a friend, so I don't know. But if it is because your friend is in deportation proceedings and is dealing with an immigration judge, that is, my practice does not handle any deportation defense. So in terms of that kind of briefing schedule, I have zero good information for you, quite honestly. How long does it take to get a receipt notice from USCIS after submitting your I-751? So your 751 is removal of conditions. That's what I had started talking about, y'all. Usually for most receipt notices, it takes a couple of weeks. It's, they mail that bad boy out pretty quickly. A couple of weeks is pretty quick in immigration terms. My husband's grandfather died in Jamaica. I'm very sorry to hear that. I submitted an expedite request from September, and now I don't get, I'm assuming, a response. Sometimes that happens when you submit an expedite request. You may want to resubmit it. You may want to make sure that you submitted everything that needs to be submitted in that expedite request. If that's something that you would like our office to help you with, we can certainly help you with. You just have to schedule a consultation, and then we can dig in a little bit more and see what's happening with that request. Someone is saying that their EAD is passed. If your EAD is passed, based on what's showing online, my office has a process that we go through where we reach out to the relevant service. Usually it's immigration, depending on what the case is, what's being processed, and we try to get cases moving. If you've looked online and it's way beyond processing times, I don't know. Obviously I don't have a copy of anything, so I can't look at it, kind of speculate for you. But if you are 9 months past processing, then you are, then you certainly can reach out to the immigration service and see what they say. Let's see here. We did that one. Do I do asylum cases? I do not handle asylum cases. That's a fantastic question, though. He's in removal and is detained, so he filed an appeal. Yep, I do not handle. That's okay. That's what I thought. I don't handle any removal. I don't handle any removal defense cases. No deportation defense cases. So that is just not what I handle in my firm. But that that brings up something I want to tell y'all. Immigration is a very large field of law. And so not every immigration lawyer practices every single piece of immigration. So there's deportation defense, which I don't do. There's asylum, which I don't do. There's family-based cases, which I do handle. There's employment-based cases, which I do handle. Some people have a very robust waiver practice where they have clients that have entered the States without status and they're looking to stay in the States or looking to get their green cards. There's various pieces to this immigration puzzle. And so that's why a consultation is so important, because you want to make sure that you are speaking with an attorney who understands your particular piece of the immigration puzzle. Fly Girl 101 is a really great example. And I really thank you for asking your question, because it gave me an opportunity to remind people of this. You always want to make sure that you are working with someone who understands your piece of the puzzle. And I am very clear, y'all. If y'all have been following me for any amount of time and hopping in my lives, I am super clear with saying what I don't know. I'm super clear with what I do know, but I'm also super clear with what I don't know in terms of immigration pieces. So just keep that in mind. Immigration is a really vast area, and not all attorneys handle all pieces of immigration. Let's see here. It's been a month and I haven't received the receipt notice after submitting my 751. Sometimes that happens. I would check and make sure that your check or your credit card has been run for the filing fees. If you, I don't know how you send in your filing fee, but you want to make sure that your filing fee has been taken, cashed, credit card run. If it hasn't, it could be on its way back to you. They could be returning the entire application and rejecting the entire application for some reason. That is one of the telltale signs when they are rejecting an application, is when the money has not been taken by them. Or it could be that they're just running slow with getting out receipt notices. In my practice, I haven't seen that slowness with the 751 receipt notices recently. Mine are, coming in a couple weeks. So it could be a few things. How long should I be married before I should file for my husband? So there's no rule on how long you have to be married before you can file for your spouse. You can file the very next day if you like. It is more important that you file with really solid documents and really solid evidence. That is what is most important. But there's no rule that says you have to wait a certain amount of time. And that's in general. If there's some other stuff brewing underneath there, I would absolutely recommend that you get yourself a consultation and we talk about that. But in general, there's no rule. You can start. Can I apply for my mom as a green card holder if she overstayed her visa and is in America already? Green card holders cannot sponsor their parents. So in order to sponsor a parent, you have to be a U.S. citizen. So if you are eligible to apply for being a U.S. citizen, then you would want to apply to be a U.S. citizen, and then you can sponsor your mom. But her overstay, if she overstayed her visa, her overstay would need to be a conversation. That flips it very much into a consultation situation. USCIS interview complete. I think this is from Kayla, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hey, Kayla. USCIS interview completed. She told us the I-130 was approved, and the I-45 she can approve once we submit RFE. Okay. Let's see here. Does the officer approve, or who approves the case? The officer approves the case. The officer approves the case. The officer submits that case for approval. But if she's, I think it was a she, yeah. If the officer is telling you that she can approve it once you submit the RFE, then whatever information the officer is looking for and has requested, then you all should submit. I can tell you one thing: if you don't submit the information that the officer has requested in that RFE, the 45 will in fact be denied. If you file an I-130, do you have to file an I-84? I'm assuming you mean an I-864, which is an affidavit of support. Yes. The affidavit of support accompanies family-based green card cases. The affidavit of support is a document that is a contract between the federal government and the sponsor, indicating that they, or showing, I should say, that they have the ability to financially support the individual that they are sponsoring for a green card. So you want to make sure that you are submitting the I-864, but also making sure that you meet the poverty guidelines and that you don't need a joint sponsor. If you submit an I-864 and you wind up needing a joint sponsor, that's just going to slow down your processing. So that's one of the things that my firm looks at when we are working with you to get your case ready for filing. We definitely have a conversation about the financial support and the affidavit of support. Let's see here. Is there a delay in the notice of receipt? I honestly haven't seen a delay in my receipt notices coming into the firm. So I can't tell you, every single case type, but I haven't seen a delay for my receipt notices. Thank you, Ryan. I'm actually having a fantastic day. I hope you are as well. Inquiry date, they told me to wait on my inquiry date, which is 11/23. I'm not quite sure what that relates to, but yes. Immigration Service has inquiry dates. They're always going to tell you to wait for your inquiry date. Sometimes I wait for an inquiry date, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends on what's happening. But yes, they are always going to default to tell you to wait for the inquiry date to arrive to give them a chance to work on the case. At my firm, depends on what's happening. Depends on whether or not I make a decision to wait on the inquiry date. How long is the wait for a response on an RFE? Completely depends on the type of case and the office that is processing that case. That is, processing an RFE is the exact same as processing an initial filing. Now, that is on the family-based side. On the employment-based side of things, if we are filing an RFE for a case that we have elected for expedited processing, typically the Immigration Service will also expedite the processing of the RFE. That is only for employment-based cases, though. Only employment-based cases are eligible at this point for expedited processing for an extra fee. We call it premium processing. My I-45 got RFE'd in June, end of June. We just sent it about 2 weeks ago. They just updated that they received it. Yeah. Listen, the online system that tells you about the status of your cases is good. It's good, y'all. It's good. But here's the thing. Sometimes it takes a while for them to update the online system. And I'm going to tell you why that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because I would rather they spend resources, time, effort, and energy adjudicating an application and getting an approval notice or a notice of an RFE or a notice of intent to deny out the door to me so that I can keep a case moving, than update the status online. Some people may disagree with me on that, and that is perfectly okay. I would rather them spend time adjudicating a case. They are working with a tremendous backlog. So sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to get the online system updated. I, for one, am okay with that. That is not a hill I'm willing to die on. And yes, sometimes the wait is hard. Y'all, it's hard. I get it. It's hard. But if they have just updated it and it's now October, yeah, they have. I mean, they've had it, but you know that they've had it. Sometimes I will get an approval notice before I get the receipt notice. I'm not complaining about that. I'm not complaining about it. I'm not complaining about that, y'all. So I know sometimes it's just this is what y'all are thinking about all day, every day, and I know it's hard, but sometimes we all just have to take a deep breath, which again, some people don't agree with me on, and that's okay. I submitted the info right away via the website. I don't know who she is. She told me I didn't have to wait for the RFE in the mail. Yeah, I mean, if you've already submitted it, then getting it in the mail is just going to happen anyway, but it's fine if you've already submitted it. Is it legally? Hold on. Is it legally possible for a U.S. citizen to file for an overstay parent, or is that not possible? That is a consultation question. That you've got to schedule a consultation. There's way more to that question than meets the eye. There are way more facts that need to be gathered. That is beyond the scope of this live. How long for RFE response for U visa? I don't do U visas. That's another thing I don't do in my practice. So I have no idea. But in general, y'all, I don't know. I don't know processing times. I've known processing times on my lives one time because I looked it up quite literally 10 or 15 minutes before I came on live because I looked it up for a client. Processing times depend on the type of case that you have filed and the office that is processing the case. I am a U.S. citizen. Can I file for my siblings? Yes, you can file for your siblings as a U.S. citizen. However, this is what I tell all of my folks that ask me this question. You can absolutely file for your siblings. You can start that process. That is the last category in our visa bulletin. It is the absolute slowest category in our visa bulletin, and it may take over 15 years to get your siblings here. So I always tell people, yes, you can absolutely start that first part of the process. You can get that first filing in, but we need to have very, very realistic expectations if filing through a U.S. citizen sibling is the only option. So when I have that conversation with folks, I always look at other options that may be available that will be quicker, that can be quicker. So that's just kind of how I handle sibling cases, because those take a very long time, y'all. Those take a very long time. I applied in June via the lockbox and still don't have a receipt notice. It's been 15 weeks. Correct. I mean, I take your word for it. I don't know. In my practice, I'm not seeing a problem getting receipt notices. I'm not seeing it take me 15 weeks to get receipt notices. But then again, I don't know what kind of case you filed. The cases that I do, I'm not seeing it take 15 weeks to get a receipt notice. If something is taking that long to get a receipt notice on the types of cases that I handle, which are family-based cases and employment-based cases, the first thing I do if I don't have a receipt notice fairly quickly, in like a week or so, I'm checking to make sure that payment has been taken by the immigration service. If they have taken payment, then I don't really worry about it, quite honestly. If they haven't taken payment, then that is a problem, because that typically means your file is coming back to you. Typically means that they have rejected the file for some reason. They are sending your application and your payment back to you. So keep that in mind. But again, I don't know what you've processed. I don't know what you've filed. So 15 weeks, could there be a pocket of immigration that I don't practice and it's taking them 15 weeks or 20 weeks to get out a receipt notice? Absolutely. But in my practice, I'm not seeing that at all. If the inquiry date has passed, what should I do? You can make an inquiry. You can absolutely make an inquiry. If that's something that you want my office to help with, then, click the link in the bio, get yourself a consultation, and we can certainly chat about it and chat in depth. Or you can just make an inquiry with the Immigration Service. And you can certainly do that. Can I renew my green card if it expired 10 years ago while I was a child? The short answer, an easy answer to that question is yes. The more nuanced answer is it depends. And it depends on what's happened in your life since you last came in contact with the Immigration Service. So when you are, and it also depends on how long your green card was valid. If your green card was only valid for 2 years, then you have a larger issue at play that you really need an attorney to talk about that with. If your green card that you had when you were a child was good for 10 years or it didn't have an expiration date, I don't know how old you are, then you are a true permanent resident as opposed to a conditional permanent resident. But there are definitely some things that you should be looking at when you make that application. Principally, and I'm not saying this is you, if there has been a criminal history in between, from the last time you had touched immigration, now that you're a green card holder, being a green card holder does not shield you from being placed into deportation proceedings. So while the Immigration Service may in fact give you a new card because you apply for a new card and you are in fact a green card holder, right? You are in fact a lawful permanent resident. When they take your biometrics and they run that background check, if they see a criminal history, they can, depending on what's in that criminal history, forward your file over to ICE and see if ICE wants to put you into deportation proceedings. So sometimes, while the question may seem really, really, very easy, very mundane, very cut and dry, it's very nuanced. Immigration, y'all, has a lot of twists and turns in it. So in general, sure, you can absolutely ask them to give you a new green card. Sometimes the question is that advisable? Are there other things that you need to take into consideration and think about before you have them, before you make that request? My USCIS officer last weekend said to use the online rather than paper for faster processing. Looks like this happened in New Jersey. Every single officer has their very own opinions, and every single attorney I know has their very own opinions on whether or not paper is better than filing online. That's an analysis I do for each individual case. Misty, you need to come live more often. Thank you. I'm trying to come live like Monday through Friday. So I'm usually here. I usually hop on right before I go make dinner, which I haven't made yet. So thank you. I appreciate that. Was in removal proceedings and the judge put my case on hold. What does that mean? Oh, I am not the person to answer that question. I have no idea what it means. Other than your case was put on hold, I have no idea what it means. I do not I never go into immigration court. I don't do deportation defense. So unfortunately, that's not something I can help you with. Let's see here. An inquiry is not the same thing as an expedite. An expedite is asking the Immigration Service to work quicker. An inquiry is asking the Immigration Service to work, period, is to actually just process a case. So those are the differences. An inquiry is when you are asking them what's happening with my case. An expedite is I want you to process my case quicker than you normally would because insert your specific reason. So that is the difference. What about VAWA? What's the process now? I have no idea. That's a fantastic question. I have no idea. I don't handle VAWA. I don't do VAWA in my practice. Someone has asked where I take cases from. I take cases from all over the country, all 50 states. My clients are all over the place, all over the United States. They are all over the world. I work virtually, so all of my clients have a client portal where they upload documents. We communicate through that. So yeah, I work with clients all over. It's fun. It's fun. I always have someone to visit when I'm on the road traveling. It's kind of nice. Can an officer say they'll approve your application at the interview and then not? Sure, absolutely. Some officers will, or when they do the interview, they may not have the background check information with them. I have had that happen on numerous occasions. That just hasn't come through, hasn't been put in the file, whatever the case. Now, what they usually say is, I'm going to approve I'm going to recommend your case for approval, is usually what I hear, right? There's another, if a supervisor needs to look at a case after the officer looks at it, after the officer that you have an interview looks at it, and that supervisor sees something that maybe the officer missed, instead of an approval, you may get a request for further evidence. You may get a notice of intent to deny. You may get a denial, especially if they haven't gotten your background check information back yet. So yes, the short answer to the question is absolutely. As a practical matter, I see that very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. But yeah, it can absolutely happen. What do you do after the 60-day period from which USCIS received your RFE response? I'm not quite sure what you mean. So are you saying you filed your RFE response? It's now 60 days past? Because if that's the case, you wait. But again, I don't know what kind of case you filed. So for instance, if that was on the business side, that was an employment-based case, 60 days is a long time, for them to adjudicate an RFE. That's a legit long time. On a family-based case, on a family-based green card case that maybe is not current, that 60 days doesn't give me pause at all. So that's really a consultation question, where we can kind of dig into exactly what kind of case it is, what was filed, when it was filed, what they asked for, that kind of thing. But yeah, 60 days without any sort of flesh around that. It could be horrible, it could be totally normal, or it could be super fast. Why doesn't the benefit center have phones or computers? That's just bogus. Well, again, so y'all, their job is to process cases. And I get it. I get that we want to get on the phone and we want to talk to the person who's processing our case and that actual officer. Having worked inside USCIS, if that were to happen, nothing would get processed. And some people are going to hate me for saying that, and that's fine. Absolutely nothing would get processed. I think certainly it is difficult some days to get the information that we would like to get out of the agency. But to have hundreds of thousands of people talking with and trying to get, their story in front of an individual adjudicator would be absolute pandemonium. It would be absolute pandemonium. You know, that would not be a workable scenario. So, you know, they do have the 1-800 number. They are working to help get us some more information, more streamlined information. So at this point, we're kind of stuck, but I think they are. I've definitely seen some initiatives come out of there where they are really trying to streamline. And for y'all, I probably have never told y'all this, but every Monday morning, or most Monday mornings, unless it's a holiday or I'm not feeling well, I go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and I give an update on what's happening in the U.S. immigration world. So that's Mondays at 8 a.m. So if you are, you're kind of not really sure like what's going on, that's where, and I don't generally tend to answer a ton of questions. I really actually don't answer any questions Monday mornings, but it's more of an update. It's more of a time where I give y'all updates on what's happened within the past week in immigration. And sometimes those updates are for things like the fact that you don't like that there are no phones, there's no phone access to the National Benefit Center. And, I talk about initiatives that the Immigration Service has come out with, or changes in laws or changes in policy, that kind of thing. So if that at all is of interest to you as well, you can catch me on Monday mornings at 8 o'clock on my LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook group, Facebook page. Okay. What? Hold on. Biometrics completed a year ago. Why wouldn't they have it? I have no idea what kind of case you have. Biometrics are done, but biometrics are done pretty much at the very beginning, especially if it tends to be a green card process. Your biometrics are done before, well at the front end of the process. So it's not unusual to have your biometrics and then be waiting for a year. And that's, that I know sometimes y'all are hesitant about calling attorneys and working with attorneys, but these are things, and these are sort of some of the types of questions, which I think are really good questions. I think these are like amazing questions. These are the things that we work with our clients on and that we talk with our clients on from the very beginning. So we talk about, at least my firm, we talk about the fluidity of the processing times and how sometimes they're fast, sometimes they're slow. We talk about, what happens, what's the order of operations in a case, what's going to happen once we file, when can you expect to see certain things happening. And oftentimes, at least for my family-based clients, I tell them there's going to be a long wait period. There is going to be a long wait period. And sometimes the update is going to be, there's no update. But I think the benefit, in fact, I know, this is what my clients tell me, the benefit of working with an attorney is that that no update doesn't mean that there's a problem, right? So, if I know the processing times right now are taking like 2 years for something, or a year and a half, or 60 days, or, 15 calendar days, right? And I haven't heard anything on calendar day number 10. I'm like, well, I have 5 more calendar days to go. Like, I'm not worried about that, right? And so a lot of times, if I'm not worried, then my client's not worried. Like, my goal is always for my clients not to be worried. And so that I think is one of the benefits. And I know sometimes talking with us as lawyers can be pretty intimidating, or like you're not quite sure what to expect, but that is certainly one of the benefits, is that we kind of take that worry away from you. We are able to dig in and really give you some very, very specific case-specific information for you. I checked the status of my I-130 and it says taking longer than expected. What does that mean? It means it's taking longer than it should, or longer than they thought it would. I obviously don't know your specific case, but that is a consultation question. Like, that's a perfect consultation question for us to have a conversation about what kind of case have you filed, where did you file it, when did you file it, what was in it, let me see a copy of it. Sometimes I can glean why it's taking longer, and sometimes the answer is I think we need to sit tight. While we sit tight, I anticipate them coming back and asking us for these things. So let's start collecting these things, right? So that when we do get an RFE, we are that much further ahead of the game, right? So yeah, I don't know what kind of case you filed. I mean, you filed an I-130, but I don't know what category it sits in. If my stepmom, my petitioner, and they schedule you for an interview, who are they interviewing, her or me? They will I'm not quite sure who's the petitioner here. I think you mean if my stepmom is my petitioner and they schedule you for an interview, they will interview for a family-based case the petitioner and the beneficiary. So if you are the beneficiary, if you are the one who has the application pending on your behalf, if you are the one that is trying to get the green card, they will interview you, and they will interview your parent, your stepmother in this case. And thank you for the roses. I appreciate that. And so interviews are really important. They're really a very important part of the process. That is your time in person with an immigration officer, right? Like, we saw earlier somebody wanted to be able to talk with, an officer at the National Benefits Center. You want to be able to talk to the person in your local office who actually has your file on their desk. That's the person you really want to talk to. So when you go to an interview, the interview is set up so that they are talking and speaking with and having a conversation with both of you. It is not more heavily weighted on one person than the other. So keep that in mind. But the interview is your time to shine. It is your time to get in front of an officer, and let them see that you all have a real marriage. You're really this person's child, or like you really have this familial relationship. Whatever the basis of your application is. The interview is where essentially you get your day in front of a human being at immigration, which for some people makes them extremely nervous, and that's okay. For my clients, we get them prepared for their interviews, so we do mock interviews with them, and we also do mock interviews for folks that may have filed on their own, who are just super nervous about it and who want to just do a mock interview kind of to get the feel of it. Let's see here. Yes, some of these cases, the status is they're open. They're telling you that the case is taking longer than expected. It means just that. It means your case is taking longer than expected. If that is something that you want to dig into and try to figure out why and how we unearth that and get your case moving, that is a consultation. That is click the link in the bio and get yourself on my calendar, so that we can work together and see how we can move your case out of this taking longer than expected category, because nobody likes that category. What's my option if my wife abandoned me while on a 2-year green card? That is a consultation. That is when we talk about what's been going on, what happened. Those are the kinds of cases where I say to people, that's when we're going to talk about the things that happen in the 4 walls of your house that you don't talk about outside the 4 walls of your house. And so I would never ask you a single solitary question on a live about that. That is something that is private to you, and your family and your situation. So that is absolutely a consultation, because we dig in. I get into everything, and that's not something I would ever question you about on a live. I filed my I-130 in 2020. Do you know how long it takes to get an approval? Depends on the category within the family-based cases. But I do not know approval notices off the top of my head. It depends on the category and it depends on which office is working on the case. But you can absolutely go on USCIS.gov and look up the processing times. I think what I may do, y'all, one day is just a screen share and show y'all how to look up processing times, because I get that question a lot. And so I want you all to feel empowered so that you know how to look up your own processing times. Why would they schedule you for interviews? They schedule you for interviews because that's their process. They've been scheduling folks for interviews forever and ever and ever and ever. No, they schedule you for interviews because a green card or a citizenship application are two of the biggest benefits that the Immigration Service provides. And they essentially want to be able to look you in your face and ask you questions and see who you are and see if you meet the requirements. That's why they do the interview. They want to give you an opportunity to answer any questions that they have. And they want to give you an opportunity to present additional documentation or additional evidence that you think would help them reach a favorable decision, or reach, from my perspective, a favorable decision. From their perspective, simply a decision, right? So interviews have been, they're baked into the system. That is what they do. Wife married to USC, arrived on SB1 visa 3 years ago. Any issues if we apply for citizenship? Oh, I have no idea. There are so many more facts in there. There are so many more facts, and the fact that you entered 3 years ago. So that is a consultation. Those are the sorts of things that when you schedule your consultation, that may be what you put in the little section that describes what you're looking for. But I dig in, y'all. I talk to you. I gotta know what's going on. There may be something else in there in your history where citizenship might not be the best thing for you to do right now, right? Or I may say, what you got? We're as clean as a whistle. Let's file, right? But that's the kind of thing where I need to know, what's happening, what has happened, why the SB1. I got a lot of questions, right? So that is the type of thing where a consultation is great. And a consultation, y'all, it is an opportunity for us to have a conversation, for me to ask you questions to make sure that I understand the situation, and for you to ask me questions, and for us to collectively see if we want to work together. I stick with my clients for years. The green card applications take years. If I'm working with an employment-based client, and their individual is an international student, and we bring that person all the way through to green card with that same employer, I work with that employer-employee pair for years. I just had a client that got their U.S. citizenship. I started working with them before they were married. We went through conditional permanent residence. We got that approved. Then we removed the conditions. We got that approved. Then they filed for their citizenship and they just got sworn in. I've worked with that client for over 5 years. So I dig in. I want to know what's going on. The more I know of what's going on in my clients' lives and their employment, the better I can help you. So that is a super loaded question, which automatically pings a lot of questions in my mind. So that is absolutely a consultation. Processing times. I don't know processing times off the top of my head. I don't. Some of these seem a little long, but again, I haven't looked, so I don't know which jurisdiction is processing them. I don't know what other correspondence you may have received from immigration. I don't know if there's, a notice of intent to deny at play. I don't know if there's an RFE at play. Lots of things I don't know. Lots of questions I ask during a consult. Hey, Ricky, I appreciate your greeting. Can two benefit centers process your case? NBC 765 in Charleston, South Carolina, I-45. Oh, that's a really good question. Misty, you've got all the good questions tonight. You need to come on every night with me. Okay, y'all. Let me get comfortable here. So here's what happens. I'm going to kind of walk you through what happens when your case gets filed. Because a lot of people will say, well, come on, and they'll say, well, I filed at the lockbox, or I filed at National Benefit Center, right? So first and foremost, the lockbox, their sole job is to take your money, okay? They get the applications in the door, like they get like a FedEx package, they get a UPS package, they get a DHL package, whatever it is. They get it, it hits the door. Their job is then to figure out what kind of case you filed, because hopefully it's been sent to the right address with the right markings and all the things. So let's say it's pristine. It's got all the right things on the package. Package gets opened. And let's say it's a big ol' I-130, 45, 765, and I-131. So let's say there's an I-130, there's an adjustment of status, there's work authorization application, and there's travel permission. So there's 4 applications in there, right? The person that opens the file, or the person that opens the package, first and foremost, is looking for the forms and the associated checks. So they then have a checklist. Everything is a checklist. So first they make sure that the form has the correct filing fee. Then they take the filing fee. That goes to somebody else. They process the filing fee. Because to be clear, immigration is going to get their money. Okay, they're absolutely going to get their money. So they take the filing fee. Then they start to put the physical file together. Then they start to issue receipt notices for everything, right? Then somebody says, okay, well, let's say it's an immediate relative. Let's say it's a U.S. citizen spouse sponsoring their spouse or whatever. So then all of those applications can be filed together, right? They can all remain together, but they may not remain together, right? Because the I-130 and the 485 could go directly to, in this instance, Misty, those could go to Charleston, South Carolina, while your 765 and your I-131 go to a different office. When they are separating your applications, it is so that they can be efficient. It is not to drive you crazy. I know it seems like the whole purpose is to drive you crazy. It's not. So if your 765 is being processed at a different office, it is so that they can actually get it on somebody's desk and process it. If your advance parole or your travel permission is being adjudicated in a different office, it is so that they can process it. Folks tend to flip out when they get a transfer notice. Listen, I love a good transfer notice. That to me means immigration is trying to work on this case. I love a transfer notice. Give me a transfer notice all day, every day. That means immigration has assessed the workload in a specific office and they are now trying to even out the workloads. I love a good transfer notice. It means my case is that much closer to getting on somebody's desk. So the other thing that could happen is your I-130 could be adjudicated and approved. Great, cool, we love that. And then the 485 or your adjustment of status goes to the local office because they want to do an interview. Cool, right? What you want is your file to keep moving. It's when your file is stagnant on a shelf on a desk somewhere that it's not going anywhere. So yes, absolutely. Sometimes your files are going to be, or sometimes your case, different pieces of your case are going to be processed at different locations. And that is okay. That is okay. That means that they are trying to work through the backlog and trying to get your case out the door, right? And onto an adjudicator's desk. So just because your case is, it seems like all over the country, typically that is okay. So Don't forget about that. That happens all the time. And I'm actually really glad you mentioned that. I'm going to have to kind of remind people to say that a little bit more. Can someone apply for asylum in Canada after applying in the US? I have no idea. I don't know US asylum laws, much less Canadian asylum laws. That I don't know. I do know some Canadian lawyers, though. More than happy to give you a referral if you want to speak to a lawyer that is well-versed in Canadian law, but that's just not me. So when you pay the lawyer, you actually paying USCIS. I'm not quite sure I understand your question, but let me say this. Paying a lawyer is so the money that you pay to a lawyer is the fee for that lawyer to do work and to help you. The fee that you pay USCIS or the Immigration Service is their filing fee. So what my clients do is they write a check for me they write a check out directly to the Immigration Service. They send that check to me. I attach their check to the application. So immigration is a fee-based agency. So they operate off of their own filing fees. You can do a service request online on uscis.gov. My 45 is moving faster than my 765. My 765 is still saying cases being reviewed. Entirely possible. Entirely possible. There are some cases where on the employment side, I will get an approval notice before I get the receipt notice. And goodness knows, I'm not complaining about that at all. As long as I get an approval notice. Does a 290B approval have a good chance if it's an H-1B visa, which was revoked after stamping? I have no idea. I have no idea. I would need to see what happened in that case. H-1B revocations. Yeah, I would absolutely have to see what was filed. But I would say you should have a conversation with your employer's lawyer. See if you can have a conversation with them so that you can find out what's happening with the 290B, and what they think your chances are. I have no idea without facts. That is definitely something that would have to be a consultation. I'm married to a USC, but got an EAD and Social Security. How long for travel documents? In general, travel documents are taking about 10 to 12 months, sometimes quicker. But it again completely depends on where your travel document is being adjudicated, which office has your travel document, which again is why I love a good transfer notice. So rather than have it languish in one office, I'm happy to have them transferred to another office. If you apply for refugee travel document after biometric, how long is it approved? I have no idea. I have not ever done a refugee travel document in my entire career. So that I do not know, but I also don't really know processing times that well. You are most welcome, Misty. You are most welcome. Can I travel with a TPS travel document outside of the US? I do not know. I don't really handle TPS cases. So I would recommend that you chat with a lawyer that does TPS all day, every day, so that they can help you with that. If you make an expedited for I-131, which is advanced parole, soon as approval, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. If you're asking, can you expedite an advanced parole? Sure, you can absolutely request an expedite of your advanced parole. Can someone change a lawyer after filing? Sure, absolutely. Happens all the time. Currently studying for immigration law midterm tomorrow. I'm excited. Well, good luck. Shoot me a note. Let me know how it goes. God, Misty, you should come on every night. You have like really good questions. Does USCIS keep records of when you call them or message them? Because I'm scared to message or call. So USCIS does keep records when people call, so that they can respond. That's one of the benefits of having an attorney, is that I'm not afraid to call USCIS. I call them on your behalf. And that's my job. Like, my job is to represent you. My job is to make your life easier when it comes to immigration. So my clients do not call immigration on their own. Immigration does not call my clients. When you start working with an attorney and we submit what's called an attorney representation form, that lets the Immigration Service know that, and it lets NVC know, it lets the consulate know, it lets everybody who has to deal with your case know that I am working on your behalf, that I represent you. And so when that happens, my clients don't have to call immigration. They don't have to, I mean, my clients will get online and check their status, but they don't have to make calls to immigration. Immigration is not calling them. They're calling me if they have any questions, which is very rare for immigration to pick up the phone and call us. Let's be very clear about that. Immigration is, they are paper. So they are sending faxes. They are sending, some cases, sometimes emails, but mostly faxes. And actually, I take that back. They have started a calling situation for some things, but immigration contacts the attorney of record. That's one of the huge benefits, is that you don't have to be scared anymore, because they are contacting us. So my clients don't worry about immigration, contacting them or logging their numbers. They're logging my number. The fact that I called, when I call immigration on behalf of a client, I let them know I'm an attorney. I'm calling on behalf of my client, and I have some questions, or we need to sort through some things. I am documentarily went up too fast. I'm documentarily qualified and waiting for an interview at Islamabad. Should I bug them? I have no idea. I have no idea how long you've been waiting. It just, I don't know. I don't know what your situation is. I know in my office, we are strategic when we start bugging people, because we don't want to be the firm that cried wolf. So I'm very strategic when I reach out and how I reach out. But yeah, I have no idea if you should start bugging Islamabad, but congratulations for being documentarily qualified. You are almost there. Almost there. I-751 granted without prejudice. Is the dictation in a courthouse in front of it? I don't understand your question. Is the decision in a courthouse in front of an attorney and judge? I don't really understand your question. The 751 is usually it's usually a paper process, so it's usually it usually doesn't happen in a courthouse unless you're in deportation proceedings, and that's a whole different ball of wax, which I don't handle. So maybe that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about it was part of your deportation proceeding, then I would not know about that. But that would have been in an immigration court. But yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Let's see here. Is there anything wrong if I call USCIS if I can't reach my lawyer to call them? Is it incorrect if you call USCIS? Listen, I don't know what's going on with your case. I don't know what's going on with your lawyer. I'm not even gonna guess. I don't know. I always tell people when they come to me and they say, I have a lawyer, I'm unhappy, will you take my case? As a professional courtesy to my colleagues, to my other immigration lawyers, I always advocate that you have one more conversation with your lawyer. Lay it all on the table. Why you are frustrated, why you're angry, why you are upset, why all the whys and all the things. All the things. Not that you can't switch lawyers. I do that as a courtesy to my colleagues because I would want to be extended that same courtesy if I had a client that was unhappy and they were looking to not work with me anymore. I would want them to have that conversation with me, right? I can you physically pick up the phone and call USCIS? Sure, absolutely. Will that potentially harm your case or, maybe go against what your attorney has set as strategy? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I can't tell you, yes, you should call USCIS or no, you shouldn't. What I will say is, I'm sorry that you're having such pain points with your current lawyer, but I encourage you to have a conversation with them. I encourage you to let them know that you are unhappy and to have a very candid conversation with them. Let me see here. Do I have any information about the DV visa? I'm assuming you mean the diversity visa. Let me see here. I usually don't look things up, but let me see. We just did an update on the diversity visa. Diversity visa fiscal year 2025 opens. Hold on, opens soon. Maybe today. Let me see here. No, opens tomorrow. Opens tomorrow, October 4th, and closes November 4th. So that's the online registration period for diversity visa. Lottery is opens October 4th and closes November 7th. I have an approval for asylum. I will try to apply for I-131 travel document. Do you know how long? I have no idea. I don't handle any asylum cases. Let's see. I'm not reaching out to them again. I don't know how that could affect your case. No, Missy. I'm not saying don't reach out to the immigration service. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you are working with an attorney, reach out to your attorney. Because you don't want to potentially change the strategy without recognizing it. And y'all, here's the thing. Like, I've been practicing immigration for 25 years, right? Immigration speak and the legal piece of it is second nature to me. And I have to remind myself that it is not second nature to my clients. And sometimes my clients are they are super knowledgeable about the immigration process. Some of my clients are not. And so I have to always remind myself, slow down, stop using the legal words. And it's second nature. Like, I go from having a conversation with a lawyer where it's all legal words and all the legalese and all the complicated things, to then having a conversation with a client who may not even know that there's a USCIS website out there, right? And everybody in between in terms of immigration knowledge. So as lawyers and other professionals, right? Like, whatever your specific profession is, there are things that you just know about your profession and you just go about them and you just do them. It's the same with lawyers, right? So it is okay to remind us to slow down. It's okay to remind us, hey, I don't understand what you're saying. That's okay, right? So I'm not saying don't call immigration. What I'm saying is sit your lawyer down and say to them, hey, listen, I am unhappy about X, or I do not understand Y, and then get them to explain it to you. Sometimes we are just moving so quickly and we want to get your case done as soon as possible because we know that's what you want. sometimes we have to remind ourselves like that we have to slow down and explain. And listen, I'm being transparent. That happens to me, and I know it happens to my colleagues. This is something that we talk about, like, oh right, like we just have to kind of remember to slow down. So I'm not saying don't call immigration. I'm saying call your lawyer and have a conversation with them. But yes, whenever you message, whenever you reach out to immigration, they keep track of that, because what I always get when I reach out to them is when they respond, they have to know who they're responding to, y'all. So they get my name, they get my email address, they get my phone number, and I get a response. Like I may get an email. Usually I'll get an email response if I reach out, online. I'll get an email response, or I'll get an email, response in the account or whatever it is. But they have to collect information on you in so that they can respond, but also so that they can send your inquiry and your question, your concern to the right place. Because the people that answer the customer service line, they don't have access to your files. So you want them to get information from you so that they can, send it to the right person. So I don't think it's this like, nefarious situation where they're like, checking all your information or whatever. They're getting the bare bones minimum data needed to give to the next person who can then help you. So just keep that in mind. But I get it, y'all. It's frustrating. Like there's nothing quick about immigration. Like there's just not. But we just gotta kind of work our way through it. And as frustrated as you all with processing times, so are we as attorneys. Trust and believe. I talk with attorneys all day, every day. We're frustrated with these processing times, but they are getting better. So, we're just kind of working through them. I do not handle removal proceedings. I do not. Depending on where you are in the country, I can refer you to some really good people who I know do removal all day, every day. But I do not handle, I don't, oh, y'all are catching all the stuff I don't do. I don't do removal, and I don't do VAWA as well. Let's see here. Is DACA resident allowed to sponsor a non-U.S. citizen for F1 student visa? So DACA resident allowed to sponsor a non... that's a good question. I don't know. I have not come up against that. I would have to research that. I don't know off the top of my head. It's a good question. I just don't know the answer to it. I don't know. All right, y'all. I don't see any other questions. I don't see any other questions on YouTube either. If you want to join the private Facebook group, click the link in the bio, and there is a link there for you to join. This has been fun. I never know how long we're going to stay on and chat. I'm Carol Williams, though. I am the managing attorney and owner of Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm here in the States. We represent clients all over the country, all over the map, all over the world. I like to think we have fun doing it as well. Y'all know I work with my clients. I told you during this lab, I work with my clients for years and years. I work with employment-based cases, so helping, once an employer finds that right candidate that's not a U.S. citizen, I make sure that all the visa work is proper and on point for them, as well as the compliance work. Also help my employers sponsor their employees for green cards, EB1s, 2s, and 3s. And on the family side of my practice, I help you all sponsor your loved ones for green cards. So that usually looks like a U.S. citizen who's sponsoring their fiance, their spouse, their aging parent, and their minor child. And remember, minor in the U.S. immigration context is unmarried and under 21. So if you are 20 and you get married, you're going to have to find your own visa way in the U.S. You're no longer allowed to work under your parents or be dependents of your parents. Hey, Bianca asks, do I do K1s? I absolutely do K1s. And I know how you feel about K1s, Bianca, but I do K1s. I think K1, I like the K1. I think it is a great visa, especially for my LGBTQIA plus folks who cannot get married in their home country where it is illegal and it puts their life at risk. For those folks, I absolutely love the K1. It is a mechanism to get them here safely. But I know outside of the LGBTQIA plus, if it is not, it may not be the quickest way sometimes. Sometimes it's quicker for folks to just get married if that option is available to them. But I understand that like Bianca doesn't like working consular processing, working with the consulates. It takes a little bit of patience, y'all. It takes a little bit of patience, especially when you've got clients all over the world and you're working with different consulates. Each consulate has their own slight twist on things, their own different procedures. So it does take patience, but I really do like K1s. And again, I really like them. I think they are an incredible option for my LGBTQIA plus clients who getting married in their home country puts their life literally at risk because it's illegal and the marriage is not recognized in their home country. So I do like the K1 for that reason. But you all are welcome to reach out to me. You can certainly shoot me a message on the platform in which you are watching. Tonight we are on TikTok, the Facebook page, the private Facebook group, as well as the YouTube channel. You can also call the office at 954-903-1337. If you want to work with myself and my team, you can click the link in the bio. All of our engagements start with a comprehensive consultation where I dig in, figure out what's going on, what you're trying to achieve, how I can help you reach your goal. Misty, you can get to the Facebook group by clicking the link in my bio, and there will be a link that will take you to that group. And Sash says, I'm about to file and I'm so nervous. Good luck. Good luck. I wish you nothing but luck. Okay, y'all, one last question, then for real, I'm gonna go make me some dinner because it's 8:30 my time. Sweet Angel. If someone is on public assistance, will it affect their USCIS case? If by USCIS case you mean a family-based case, yes, it will. It will absolutely affect their case. How it affects their case will, and how, that is something that we have to get into during a consultation. But in general, that is what the I-864 is for, the affidavit of support. That is where we look at the financials of you as the sponsor and of the household. And then we go from there. And what you may simply need is a joint sponsor. And for real, y'all, what's for dinner is the last question. I think I am going to do chicken pesto pasta with lots of Parmesan cheese. So I think that is what I am. I think that's what's going to happen for dinner tonight. Tonight has been great, y'all, as usual. I will be back on, I think tomorrow. Y'all know I always have to check my calendar day to day. Hold on. It's Wednesday. I will be back on tomorrow. So I will see y'all tomorrow. Sometime around my dinner time, when most people are eating dinner. But I will see y'all tomorrow. This has been fun. Again, if you want to work with me, feel free to click the link in the bio, schedule a consultation. Feel free to give the office a call, 954-903-1337. And we will chat then. Bye, guys.